Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and this time round I thought I would revisit an author whom I haven't read in many, many years. But when I read him at a time in my life where I guess I needed him, he delivered. And when I read his first book, which was a very well-known book, multi-million dollar bestseller book. It was called The Alchemist. So, do you know who I'm talking about now? Yes, it's Paulo Coehlo. Hopefully, I said that right. And when he wrote The Alchemist, I thought, wow, this book, it made my life. It was just, it blew my mind. I remember at the time I was a host, a student, an exchange student in living in Holland, in Amsterdam, and the book was with my host family, and it was sitting on the bedside table, and I read it in the one sitting. And I remember going down the next day downstairs, and I said to my new host family, what was that book on the table? It just blew my mind. I spent the entire night reading it. It was wonderful. And yes, the lady who the Dutch lady who I was living with, she was a very spiritual, very artistic, creative person. She deliberately put it up at my table so I could have a read of it. So it was very interesting. But the book I'm talking about this time round is Hippie by Paulo Coehlo. This is his new book. It was published a couple of years ago. I saw it in the bookstores. It was there on the shelves, but I didn't buy it because what my usual habit is, I prefer to get books from the library first, read them, and if they somehow make an impact on me, they move me, there's some kind of emotion with them, I will buy them for my personal collection. Or if it's with authors like, Ernest Hemingway, Orwell, Wolf, you name it, obviously I'll buy them. But okay, so Hippie. Hippie is very, very different to what he has written before. Don't get me wrong, there is still a lot of spiritual element in it, but there's also a lot of religion in this, the Christian religion, but also Islam and Sufism. So what the author has done here is he's taken something that has happened in his life for real and made it into a novel. So the people that he met, his ex-girlfriends are mentioned in here. They were all real people, but he's made that situation into a novel. And so we get to experience one element of the late 1960s when he heads into Amsterdam, going on in his own spiritual journey, and meets up with Carla, who was waiting for anyone at Dam Square in Amsterdam, so that she could invite for her to be her male companion to go to Kathmandu. And so this was the late 60s, the hippie culture. There's obviously drugs, there's free love, there's all sorts of things. One of the things I did like about this book was the mention of the hippie culture and how people reacted to the hippies, because I guess it's a part of life or a part of history that at times people nowadays are still wanting to have, and yet nothing's really changed over time. And how people would react to the hippie culture. And however, he doesn't delve into it deeply enough. What he does instead is talk about the different situations and the different histories of the people in this book. So we don't just get Paulo's version of it. We get what's happened to Carla, even happened to a couple of the people on his trip. So for me, read in a very disjointed way. And I must admit, I don't know, if he was just flat out and just said this, if he wrote this piece as a non-fiction essay of some sort, it would have been far better, I feel, as opposed to making it into a novel and then weaving in the spirituality of things, because it felt really disjointed at times. Don't get me wrong, it was easy to read, but there was nothing really that I had I had to force myself to keep reading it and to go in and say, well, where's this going? What's he going to do now? Oh, look, okay, we're now onto the story of someone else. but at times I do wish that he did talk more about the places he had seen, the hippie culture that was prevalent in the day, and less about the stories that seem to kind of weave in and out of those. So that's my review of Hippie. Have you read this book? I'd be really interested to see what you've thought about it. I've read some reviews. It's very mixed. Some people love it, some people hate it. I was just going, it's okay, but he wasn't the alchemist. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Bye for now.